So the NBA 2K26 gameplay blog made some big claims about dribbling in NBA 2K26. But if you take a step back, these are the only dribbling clips we got from the footage that's been released so far. So we're gonna try to cut through the marketing buzzwords to see whether the gameplay footage matches up with what we see in the blog. I'm also going to break down some of Mike Wang's latest tweets on dribbling. There's a lot to go over, from the speed and responsiveness of dribbling, the return of some fan-favorite dribbling moves, and the potential return of a dribbling system from all the way back in NBA 2K16. And if you're thinking, did I just turn less than 30 seconds of actual gameplay footage into an entire think piece? Heck yeah, I did, but there's a lot of value to be added here, and let's start by discussing the speed and responsiveness and the ability to explode out of your signature animations. So a new detail on dribbling comes from this question on the gameplay Q&A. Are there any changes to bursts and changes in direction for ball handlers? So Mike Wang answers, we spent some time tuning the dribbler's ability to start, stop, and cut. The speed and tightness of changing directions will vary based on ratings and dribble style. So this is something that a lot of people had an issue with. There were added hitches in certain dribble styles, for example, preventing them from taking advantage of some mistakes by the defense. Because of that hitch, it won't allow them to punish defenses and counter the right way. So I wanted to take a look at the footage that we have so far to see if there's any improvement on this end. So to answer that, I want to take a look at this clip from Anthony Edwards where he does his regular breakdown dribble animation. So if you take a look at this animation, it's fairly standard. His regular breakdown animation actually has some changes compared to 2K25. So first, it now starts with a between the legs dribble into that regular breakdown, and now the retreat is much faster out of that between the legs step back. So let's take a look at Anthony Edwards' regular breakdown dribble in 2K25. So it's a much slower animation, right? And let's say that 2K26 footage cut that off. As you can see here, as we try to match it, there are some notable differences. Let's sort of break that down to see what changes there are. All right, so once again, if we take a look at the NBA 2K26 footage, Anthony Edwards' regular breakdown now starts with a between the legs dribble into that nice, I would say, attacking push, and then a step back to between the legs. But take a look at the difference between 2K26 and 2K25. In general, I would say the push is about the same speed. Where it changes is the setup. So I don't know if my guess for 2K26 is that this is just one animation. But now with his regular breakdown, it's a between the legs, that push, boom, and take a look at the difference between the legs step back or retreat dribble from Anthony Edwards in 2K26 and 2K25. It's a much further distance moving back in 2K26, whereas if you look at 2K25 footage, he just stands there stationary into that between the legs crossover. It's much more interesting when we finish this clip. All right, let's look at the entire clip overall. What was one thing that stood out here? So after that between the legs dribble, take a look at Anthony Edwards first. For NBA 2K26, he bursts out of it pretty quickly, which is a problem for a lot of bigger builds, especially even tall guards. If you didn't have SGA dribble style, there were ways around making sure that you burst smoothly out of same side launches, and that is if you launch with the left stick and then hold turbo after you get the smooth launch. Not a lot of people do it. You know, our habits keep us from holding R2 and then pushing the left stick up to explode on the same side. But take a look at the burst in 2K25. This is what I mean. I think Anthony Edwards has pro dribble style in 2K25. So he has that in and out burst, which adds a little bit of a added hitch animation so that the explosiveness is gone. So even if we try to burst on at the same time in the animation after the between the legs step back, take a look. That added in and out dribble forces you to take a little bit more time than you would like. Once again, this part of the animation more or less stays the same. The step back for Anthony Edwards in 2K26 is much more pronounced compared to what is a flat and stationary step back for Anthony Edwards in 2K25 on the right. But take a look where the other big difference is now Anthony Edwards in 2K26 is already in the process of pushing off of his right foot. Whereas I had to load up the in and out dribble for Anthony Edwards in 2K25, adding that extra bit of dribble animation before you can push off with your right leg. Take a look at Anthony Edwards in and out into the push off. He times the push off after the ball hits the floor, and that causes a delay in the launch in the case of 2K25. Whereas if we take a look at 2K26, after that step back tween dribble, once again, let's set this up. So the animation at this point is almost like for like, and can now step back. I don't know if that's a left stick dribble move or part of the regular breakdown. We'll figure that out when the game comes out. But now you're able to push on the same side much more smoothly, whereas Anthony Edwards in 2K25 had to do that in and out dribble before he pushed off his right foot. So I think small details. And let me tell you once again, we're overreacting and breaking down the smallest of details, okay? We don't know how good this is. We'll only find out when we have the controller in our hands. But I think things look promising for now, and it lends some evidence to what Mike Wang was saying in his tweet. I'll have to see for sure. Bursts, of course, is one of those things that if you didn't have SGA dribble style as a tall guard, you had to be creative with how you combined your bursts with your cancels, your different dribble animations and explosions using the left stick and then pushing turbo. But for now, it looks like it's promising. Bigger improvement in the same side bursts for Anthony Edwards. But this clip might even be more important because if you remember the trailer for 2K25, a lot was made about the ability to have precise stops, quick and precise stops, not quick stops, but quick and precise stops into fast and explosive launches that pro play would allow. Now, not here to say that that system is perfect, but you had to use the left stick, and if you combined it with your cancels, you were able to do so. But once again, not always the most accurate thing, and they clearly saw it as something that needed to be improved. So let's look at this even shorter clip from Jalen Brunson. Man, 2K doesn't make it easy to break their games down. I'm guessing that, you know, with a tighter release cycle, you know, they might be a bit coy on what gameplay they show. But let's take a look at this clip from Jalen Brunson. It's very quick. Blink and you'll miss it. Crossover, 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 stop, crossover, push. Again, this one is in 25% speed. So what you start with here is a standard. So this animation right here comes from the standard Jalen Brunson, I think, size up to the right, which you launch out of. 1, 2, plant, and then burst. Okay, we're going to break that down by comparing it to 2K25. All right, let's do that. So again, this is from Jalen Brunson's signature size up. You launch out of it by pushing the left stick up and to the left while holding turbo. Okay. Take a look at the difference between 2K26 and 2K25. 2K26, Jalen Brunson was able to stop after that one step into the second step where he plants his feet, floats the ball, and is able to push. Whereas if you take a look at Jalen Brunson in 2K25, after that burst, take a look at the footwork and how we struggled to stop and plant our feet to explode very quickly. Look, it's almost like you had to hop into place and then put both feet in a parallel position, which is not very explosive, by the way. Check out the footwork in 2K26 when Brunson is about to explode. Left foot forward, allowing him to push off of that, but right there. So there's some magic going on with the footwork here, but 26 looks more natural than 25. In 25, you had to hop into a parallel position almost, which is not very explosive, and as a result, by the time the ball enters Jalen Brunson's right hand after the crossover, that's only when we're able to push off our left foot and then cross over for Jalen Brunson. It's a subtle difference, but it reveals to you the improvements that were being made already in the ability to stop. So again, take a look at 2K26 Jalen Brunson, right? What does this mean for you as a player? Well, one, now, after your left stick burst out of a right stick crossover, if you, I'm assuming here what you do is you release turbo so that you slow down. After that first step, your second step, you will plant, allowing you to push off very quickly. I want you to focus on the 2K26 clip right here because there is some hints that the system is still being cooked, right? After you plant your left foot in order to push off, look, there's that first dribble and then a magical second dribble before the ball moves to your right hand. What does this communicate to me? One, it's a work in progress, of course. This was probably captured well before the game is ready because of, you know, there's still some dev time left. But two, what 2K is trying to show here is that, you know, we will give up some visual fluidity in order to respond to the feedback to from the community to make dribbling a little bit faster. Again, responsible and reasonable speculation. I am going to dissect all of these little crumbs of gameplay that they've thrown our way. I wish there was more, but this is what we have, okay? Might be pushing things. In fact, I certainly am pushing things, but you know, that's the film that we have. One dribble bounce, then the ball goes back to his left hand, another dribble bounce before it goes to his right hand. That's supposed to be one crossover, but there's a visual glitch right here, which shows you that 2K might be prioritizing at, you know, the responsiveness of the system over visual fluidity. And what does this mean for practical gameplay terms in 2K26? Well, folks, let me tell you about a guy called Deron Williams who had some of the filthiest crossovers encounters during his time. But let's take a look at how Deron Williams uses those kinds of stops and quick explosions to beat the defender. Right? First crossover, second crossover, third crossover. Right? Now, 2K25, to do that, you needed to wait for the right time after you explode before you're able to push off again. Or settle for a combo move and an escape dribble, similar to what, let's say, if you want to do a Zach LaVine 1-2 crossover combo move into a Kyrie escape. But take a look at how fluid this looks. Hezi, burst. Again, stop. This stop right here is equivalent to the stop that Jalen Brunson makes in 2K26 clip. Burst, and then look at the step. Burst. That's the type of fluidity I think should be possible if they implement the motion engine and dribble engine as they said they did in the blogs. It should allow for more precise stops and quicker launches, and the short gameplay clip that we have from Jalen Brunson leads me to believe that we're closer to achieving this than they were in 2K25. Again, stuff to break down what's marketing versus what is actually in the game, but the short gameplay clip from Jalen Brunson leads me to believe that there might be some hope. Once again, as you see here, boom, boom, boom. What would have been canned animations in 2K25 hopefully is something that's more organic and possible in 2K26. Now for our next clip, we're going to take a look at Luka's size-ups after his Hezi and how the quick protect mechanic works. These are animations that are in 2K25. So what we're seeing right here is by pressing L2 as you initiate that quick protect button, you're stepping back and giving yourself an angle away from your defender. So let's compare the size ups between 2K25 on the right and 2K26 on the left. So the Hezi looks familiar, pretty much the same. All right. Into his size up dribbles. Not necessarily a one-for-one comparison. What's interesting in the 2K26 clip is that his crossover size up, or what could be a left stick explosion without holding turbo, immediately can be comboed with your right stick dribble moves. And there you see the quick protect mechanic where you step back. Your right hand is almost pushing away from your defender or trying to protect the ball. And then from there, take one dribble and then into your size up. So this is encouraging from a fluidity perspective. You can combo your size ups with hopefully your quick protect mechanic. And that's something that we'll be taking a look at. In terms of the overall speed with the size ups, again, this isn't a one-to-one comparison because Luka in 2K26 is mixing up his size ups compared to Luka in 2K25. The dribbling speed for Luka looks pretty much the same, not much faster, right? Compared to the Anthony Edwards clip we saw earlier on, which should be fine. I think it's fine to have fast animations, and I also think it's fine to have slow animations. And sometimes it's those slow animations which sets up a lot of your change of pace movements anyway. But not much to really glean over this clip right here other than the quick protect mechanic not only separates you from your defender by taking a step back, but there's also some extension with your offhand to protect the ball. Whereas if you take a look at 2K25, take a look at basically there's no quick protect. After you dribble and you hold L2, you just have to settle for that stance where your offhand is extended and you're shielding the ball away from your defender. But overall, what I can see here is that a lot of the animations will carry over from 25 to 26. Hopefully added for more players, especially guys whose styles aren't accurately captured. Yeah, but the quick protect mechanic looks like it's going to be useful in terms of creating distance and as a viable counter. I wanted to see hopefully if we could push out of those quick protect stances, right? Can you like same side burst out of it? That would be good. But as you can see right here, it's almost like Luka was spamming it. So I want to see when we have the controller in our hands, 2K26 in our hands, I want to see how fast and responsive it is to chain into different type of counters. Next, let's talk about this clip from Kyrie Irving. And I think what we can once again observe from this clip is that there are situations where a lot of the signature animations will mostly stay the same. So here is a hezzy cancelled into a or comboed into a behind the back. Not necessarily, the animations are not necessarily one for one. Into that between the legs escape dribble from Kyrie. You mostly keep the same animations. So once again, it looks like pro play is going to be additive instead of transformative every year. I mean, if something is fine, they don't need to change it. But this once again shows you that not only do the animations mostly carry over, but in some cases, these animations were already fast, debatable for some of Kyrie's other animations, but they mostly keep their same speed and their same pace. So not everything will get that quick animation refresh that potentially Anthony Edwards received for his regular breakdown dribble. So next, let's take a look at this clip with James Harden. So he does his usual between the legs dribble, but now he combos that with what looks like a misdirection dribble. So this looks similar to the misdirection dribble, at least for 2K20 until 2K24. That was a new addition to 2K22. Expanded on it with ability to launch very smoothly in 2K23 or 24. Then they took it out in 2K25. Could this be the return of the misdirection dribble, which was actually available in 2K25 Community Day? They took it out for your escape dribble combo moves. But I would like to see the return of the misdirection dribble. This could also be a misdirection hop back into a James Harden hop jumper. Similar to Chris Paul. Chris Paul has the misdirection dribble built into his hop jumpers. Maybe this means a new move for James Harden? We'll have to see. So in the previous video, I speculated how 2K26 could bring back some systems from 2K16 that in my opinion were superior to 2K25, and one of them was the transition dribble combos. Now 2K left transition dribble combos to basically your combo moves, your quick flicks of the right stick from left to right or right to left while you were moving. You couldn't chain your moving crossover and your moving behind the back very smoothly, for example, like you could do for 2K16. So let's take a look at his tweet and why that's important. So Air Samurai asks, they know we want this, but will they deliver? So what you're seeing in the clip is a double Kyrie behind the back, something that in transition Jamal Crawford would do, Kyrie Irving, a lot of your strong downhill dribblers like Derrick Rose, for example. Mike Wang says you'll be able to do this by chaining two driving behind the backs together. Now, Let's take a look at 2K16 and 2K25 to see the differences in its implementation for how 2K likes to do transition dribbling and why this could be a good thing in terms of being a bit more dynamic moving downhill. So if we have Kyrie Irving going downhill. Watch this crossover. Watch how this crossover chains really well in comparison to 2K25 later on. So again, downhill movement from Kyrie, crossover into behind the back. That's basically flicking the right stick to the right and then the right stick down immediately after. So you get two inputs, but the smoothness in the execution of the animations make it seem like a seamless fit between the two. Here's me making a more complicated combo out of a burst, but once again, you can finish with a moving crossover into a moving behind the back, comboed very quickly. Now, if you try to do this in 2K25, this is what you'll get. So I think for this build, Damian Lillard or Deron Fox moving crossover and Darius Garland behind the back. Take a look at what happens here. So I initiate a moving crossover and I immediately try to execute a moving behind the back. I want to get that crossover to behind the back launch to launch me forward towards the basket. But what happens is push cross and then it's actually a snatch back instead of an explosive behind the back towards the basket. So I prefer 2K16's moving transition combo system versus 2K25 because what 2K25 actually does is it relies on your combo moves, your right stick flicks left to right or right to left to your ball hand or to your non-ball hand. So let me show you later on in the next clip why this isn't ideal. So here we're taking a look at some of the combo moves. Once again, you have your stationary combo moves and your moving combo moves. So there, see, those are your between the legs to crossover or hezi to crossovers, in some cases behind the backs after your crossovers. But once again, these are animations that you don't generate yourselves, right? You are locked into this 2 dribble sequence where maybe you'd like to counter more naturally instead of having to pre-program them, you know, before you even see what the defender is coming at you with. So the 2K16 is superior in my opinion. And with this hint that, you know, you can now chain your moving behind the backs and hopefully you're moving crossovers to behind the backs. Hopefully this means a return to the system that was in 2K16. So another pretty important in terms of dribbling is a question on whether there were changes to dribbling besides the new controls for signature size-ups. Mike Wang says dribbling has changed a lot in 26. Branching and chaining moves will generally feel more responsive and you can interrupt more moves than you could in 2K25. So a big problem in 2K25 was that there were certain moves that will lock you out of exploding out of them if you're able to punish the defender. So I'll show you a clip right now of the James Harden escape combo move, which I try to explode out of, but take a look at how far into the combo chain I can only explode out of it. So I think that's only good. I think that's a big complaint from the community. Now there were some so my trick around this was I had to find the animations where that window where you can't explode out of is as small as possible. I want to not be locked into long animations. So this is only a good thing. So they made an effort to make dribbling faster and the inputs more responsive. You'll also find some great new content. So that means more pro play dribble animations as well as the return of some old favorites, Pippin's behind the back wrap. So this could potentially be a big thing. Again, responsible speculation. One negative from pro play is that for classic players, you basically couldn't pro play your weight out of capturing a lot of their signature animations. It's not possible. The cameras used for pro play need to be installed in the arena in order for 2K to be able to translate that into their animation pipeline. I'm not sure what year this started, maybe 2021, 22, or 23. Definitely 22 or 23. So old classic players do not have their signature animations unless they do mocap. So who are you guys that did mocap? Jason Williams, Tracy McGrady to some extent. I'm not sure if the signature animation packages for Melo and Vince Carter were just recreated by someone that 2K hired. But what you can see from 2K is that the signature animations for older players aren't as robust as they are for current players. The other thing as to why Pippin's behind the back is important is Pippin's behind the back was a pretty meta move, and I don't have a clip, so I tried to look for one in YouTube, and shout out to this YouTuber right here who has this Kata and Pippin behind the back content. As you can see, that is a very meta move. I remember my team in 2K22, that was one of the meta behind the backs. So Mike Wang thinks that the addition of this content, making it more responsive, faster, and the addition of new pro play content and the return of some old favorites will make sure that dribblers are well taken care of. But, you know, we need to see for sure. And for our last clip on dribbling, I wanted to take a look at the revamped size-ups as they were mentioned in the blog. Now it's more intuitive controls, multiple flicks up and flicks from left to right or right to left. I want to see how that system, you know, takes shape. But I'm taking a look at Cade Cunningham, and I'll put up a comparison video shortly. Is this size up combo sequence a little bit faster than in 2K25? I'm not 100% sure, but what they're trying to communicate here, I guess, is that those multiple flicks will give you chain combinations instead of having to time the tempo and the accuracy of your right stick inputs that we've known for a few years now for 2K. So I want to see if this system leads to one, more natural fluid size ups that hopefully you can also control with tempo depending on how fast you flick your stick. But two, if you're a fast right stick flicker, can you make faster combos if you want to do so? As you can see, Cade Cunningham here, there are different changes in tempo, but overall this looks faster than his signature size up combos in 2K25. So there you have it, my most irresponsible speculation video yet. But what do you think? Am I on track here, or am I just stretching the reality? Let me know what you think in the comment section below. I think dribbling will be improved. By how much? We'll just have to see.